Today's video is how to make Bob-omb. I'm going to place him here and show you what you'll need. First of all, you'll need a crochet hook, a stitch marker, some pins, a yarn needle, a pair of scissors, some wonderful polyester toy stuffing, and then some black, white, yellow, blue, and orange yarn. This will be your color palette. Let's start by making his feet. Grab your yellow yarn and make a slip knot. Once your slip knot is attached to your hook, let's make 2 chain stitches. Now, on the second chain from the hook, we're going to do 6 single crochets into the same hole each time. I shall now speed up my video a little bit and meet you at the end of round 1. Now that we've completed our first round, let's grab our stitch marker and mark the very last stitch we created. If a hole has started to form in the center of your work, give your yarn end a little tug in order to close it. We can now start round 2, and in round 2 we're going to be placing an increase into each of the single crochets of the first round. So by that I mean we're going to be placing 2 single crochets into each of the 6 stitches. At the end of this round we should have 12 stitches in total. Let's replace our stitch marker into the very last stitch we created. We can give our yarn end a little tug to close the hole in the center. And now we can begin round 3. For round 3, we're going to do a single crochet followed by an increase. And we will do that for the entire way round. At the end of round 3, we will have a total of 18 stitches. Replace your stitch marker and let's look at how we do round 4. For round 4, we are going to do a single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches and follow that with an increase. We will do that for the entirety of the round. So 2 single crochets and then an increase. At the end of round 4, you will have 24 stitches in total. Round 4 was the last of our increasing rounds for this foot. For rounds 5 through to and including 15, we're just going to do single crochets all the way around in all 24 stitches. So to be clear, for rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15, just do single crochets all the way around, and we'll meet back at round 16 to continue. Awesome, that's us finished round 15. Let's grab our stitch marker and you'll now see that our foot is elongated. We're going to move on to round 16 now. And what we're going to do is a single crochet into the next 2 stitches and follow that with an invisible decrease. I'd like to show you how to do the invisible decrease, so let's do the first 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches. This is followed by an invisible decrease in stitches 3 and 4. For that, we'll place our hook through the center of stitch 3 and through the center of stitch 4, grabbing the front loops only. We'll yarn over and pull through both loops, yarn over again and pull through both loops again. So for a quick recap of round 16, you do a single crochet into the next 2 stitches followed by an invisible decrease, and we'll do that all the way around until we're left with 18 stitches. At the end of round 16, secure your work and let's pause for a moment. We're going to take this opportunity to start stuffing the foot. Grab some toy stuffing and start shredding it. I pull my toy stuffing apart like this, as when I start sewing, I find that my yarn needle glides through my work a lot easier and not get stuck in lumps and clumps of toy stuffing. We don't need to stuff all the way to the top, we still want to be able to easily access our stitches. So let's stop there and we can continue stuffing later on. Let's begin round 17. And for that we will do a single crochet followed by an invisible decrease. And we will do that for the entire round. At the end of round 17 we will be left with 12 stitches. Before we start the final round, which will be round 18, let's stop for a moment and continue stuffing the foot. As the foot will be holding the entire weight of your bob-omb, we want it to be stuffed very well. Now for our final round, round 18. And for that, we're just going to be doing invisible decreases all the way around until there is 6 stitches left. Once you've completed this round, let's meet back and I will show you how to close off your work. And that's us completed the foot. What we'll do now is cut a long length of yarn in order to be able to close off our work and use the rest of the yarn for sewing onto the body of our bob-omb. Closing up our work is very straightforward. I thread our yarn needle with the tail of our yarn, and all we're going to do is we're going to work around the last 6 stitches. For that, I'm going to use my yarn needle and grab the front loop only as if we're doing an invisible decrease of the first 2 stitches and pull my needle all the way through with the yarn. Already you'll see that it's starting to close that gap that's left. Now grab stitch 3 and 4 and do exactly the same by just grabbing the front loops of those stitches and pulling your yarn needle all the way through. And let's do that one more time with stitches 5 and 6. Grab those front loops and pull your yarn through. This closes up your work very neatly. As I mentioned before, we're going to use the rest of the yarn tail to sew the foot onto the body of our bob-omb. To prepare the foot for sewing later in the project, push your needle about 1/3 of the way through the foot. We're going to pull the yarn all the way through. This will be the perfect position for us to start sewing when we're ready. Our Bob-omb will need 2 feet, so rewind to the beginning of this chapter and make a second foot for him. Let's make the body of our Bob-omb. Grab your black yarn and make a slip knot. Attach the slip knot to your hook and chain 2. In the second chain from your hook, we're going to crochet 6 single crochets. Grab your stitch marker and place it in the last stitch that you created. If a hole is forming in the middle of your work, grab your yarn tail and give it a tug to close it. Let's begin round 2. For round 2, we're going to do an increase into each of the 6 stitches of round 1. In other words, we're going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch. So at the end of round 2, you will have 12 stitches. Let's replace the stitch marker and give our yarn tail a little tug to close the hole in the center. And now we can start round 3. For round 3, we are going to do a single crochet followed by an increase, and we will do that for the entirety of this round. By the end of round 3, you will have 18 stitches. Excellent! Now we're ready to start round 4. For round 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets followed by an increase. And at the end of round 4, we will have 24 stitches. Round 5 is another increasing round, and here we'll do 3 single crochets followed by an increase. At the end of round 5, you will have 30 stitches. We've made it to round 6. For this, we're going to do 4 single crochets followed by an increase. At the end of this round, you will have 36 stitches. Wonderful! Round 7 is next, and for this one we will be doing 5 single crochets followed by an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the increase, and you'll do that for the entirety of this round. Let's meet back once you finish this round, and at the end of this round you will have 42 stitches. We're making excellent progress. We're going to move on to round 8, and here we will do 6 single crochets followed by an increase for the whole round. At the end of this round, you will have 48 stitches. Next up is round 9, and we're going to continue to increase the size of our bob-omb body. For round 9, we're going to do 7 single crochets followed by an increase. As before, we will continue that pattern all the way around. At the end of round 9, you will have 54 stitches. Let's start round 10 now. For this round, it will be 8 single crochets followed by an increase for the whole of this round. At the end of round 10, you will have 60 stitches. We're almost done with our increasing rounds, but we're going to continue with round 11, which is 9 single crochets followed by an increase. At the end of this round, there will be 66 stitches. Perfect. This is our final increasing round, and this is round 12. For round 12, we will do 10 single crochets followed by an increase. At the end of this round, we will have 72 stitches. So let's meet back at the end of this round, and we will continue at round 13 with a new set of instructions. Wonderful, that's us completed all of our increasing rounds. Next up, for rounds 13 all the way through to and including round 21, we're going to just be doing single crochets. This is going to help us shape the body of our bob-omb. So for the next 9 rounds, let's just do single crochets and we'll meet back at round 22. Great, we've finished all of our single crochet rounds and we can now move on to round 22. For round 22, we will do 10 single crochets followed by an invisible decrease. If you remember when we made the foot, the invisible decrease is when we are grabbing the front loops only of the next 2 stitches. So continue with round 22 with 10 single crochets followed by a decrease, and at the end of the round you will have 66 stitches. Let's continue with round 23. For round 23, it is 9 single crochets followed by a decrease for the entirety of this round. You'll keep repeating that pattern until you get to 60 stitches. We are now at round 24. We're going to continue doing some decreases, and for this round we will do 8 single crochets followed by a decrease. You will have 54 stitches at the end of this round. Perfect. We can now move on to round 25. And for round 25, we will do 7 single crochets followed by a decrease. By the end of the round, you will have 48 stitches left. Now for round 26, we're making excellent progress. For round 26, we will do 6 single crochets followed by a decrease. At the end of this round, you will have 42 stitches. For round 27, you will do 5 single crochets followed by a decrease, and we'll do that for the entirety of the round. By the end of round 27, you will be left with 36 stitches. Now we have reached round 28, and for this round we will do 4 single crochets followed by a decrease for the entirety of the round. At the end of round 28, you will have 30 stitches. At this point, secure your work, as we're going to take a little pause of doing crochet and start stuffing the Bob-omb body. So grab your toy stuffing and start tearing it apart and stuffing the body. As a quick reminder, I tear apart my toy stuffing as I find when it comes to sewing, my yarn needle goes through my work a lot easier and is less likely to get stuck in clumps of toy stuffing. So continue to add toy stuffing to plump up the body of your Bob-omb. There's no point of overstuffing it at the moment, as we can always add more stuffing later. Let's continue to crochet and start on round 29. For round 29, we're going to do 3 single crochets followed by a decrease, and we'll do that all the way around. When we get to the end of round 29, you will have 24 stitches left. We're on the home stretch. For round 30, we will do 2 single crochets followed by a decrease. At the end of this round, you will have 18 stitches. Secure your work and grab some more toy stuffing. You're wanting your Bob-omb body to be pretty firm to touch, but with a little bit of give. Continue adding toy stuffing until you feel that you have the right amount. Whilst you're stuffing, use your hands to shape the body, as you want it to be wonderfully round. We can grab our crochet hook again and start back at round 31. This is the second last round, and here we're going to do a single crochet followed by a decrease. As before, we're going to do that for the entirety of the round. At the end of round 31, you will have 12 stitches left. Perfect! This is our last round. We've made it to round 32. And here we're just going to do decreases all the way around. We're going to be left with 6 stitches at the end of this round, and at that point I will show you how to close up your work. With round 32 complete, secure your work and cut a long length of yarn. We want a long length of yarn in order to be able to close up our work. After cutting the yarn, pull the yarn tail all the way through your final stitch. Now thread your yarn needle with the yarn tail. To close our work, we're going to use our yarn needle to do decreases. So grab the front loops of stitches 1 and 2 and pull your yarn all the way through. Do another decrease by grabbing the front loops of stitches 3 and 4, again pulling your yarn all the way through. You can already start seeing that the gap is closing. And we'll do this one more time by grabbing the front loops only of stitches 5 and 6. And there we have it. We've made the Bob-omb body. At this point you can also weave in your yarn end. Join me in part 2 to learn how to make Bob-omb's eyes, key and fuse, and I'll also show you how to sew him together.